Well, the sun came up anyway, and the markets are doing just fine. I got caught with my water. It's okay, man. Might as well take a sip if I get caught with it. Nice to have you in. State of mind, thirsty state of mind. Dan Yorke, every night at 7:30 here. And I got a little message for Sherry on your state of mind at the end about the way this program runs, so stay tuned. Mayor Alan Fung from Cranston. He's battling rats, he's battling floods, and he might be battling other candidates as he pursues another gig. We'll cover all that kind of thing here this evening. I'm also interested in what the mayor has to say about a couple of Republican issues, that which is coming out of Washington and that which is coming out of our own fair state. But to the rundown we go. Let's see, how long will it go? We've been wondering whether we'd have a government shutdown, and now we do. Now the question is, how long will it stay shut down? Meanwhile, by coincidence, sort of, the health exchanges open all across the country and go wacko, kind of bust. Computers blowing up all over Kingdom Come. But some good news on that for ratepayers, sort of, depending on some things. Really? Guys, really? It's not often I'm left speechless, but really? And this is even more speechless. If I'm paying the tuition for... Let's go. Let's get into it. All right, big day in Washington. Very anticlimactic last night. You know, I had this funny feeling as I was watching television last night. I went through the NFL and the Dolphins and the Saints. Saints blew away the Dolphins. I'm watching the Tampa Bay Devil Rays beat the Texas Rangers, and in between I'm seeing if there's anything really going on in Washington, and there was nothing really going on. And I thought, you know, what a great country. We can be shutting down the entire government and still competing for Super Bowls and World Series rings. It's a beautiful thing. So you saw some of what happened here today with the headlines and the signs, this shut down, that shut down, as Jess was saying last night. How come they shut down all the fun things? They shut down all the fun things, the parks and stuff, so that people pay attention to it. Of course, you know, you had hundreds of people that were furloughed in Newport today. You've got 7,000 that are in jeopardy of that here in the state. You got 800,000 in the country. And so here we go. But funny, the markets were fine and the sun came up. Here's the latest on the entire story from Fox.
Estimated 800,000 federal employees headed to work this morning, but only to tie up loose ends and officially close for business as the government shutdown goes into effect. On the National Mall, barricades are going up as national parks and monuments throughout the country are closed. Back on the Hill, the political sparring continues.
They've now said they won't even agree to sit down and work out differences. They won't even talk about it.
The main point of contention, a delay of Obamacare, a measure Republicans are tying to a deal to fund the government.
What is wrong with their fixation on a law of this country, and has been a law for 4 years?
With a compromise nowhere in sight, the president is pleading with Congress on behalf of the American people.
The longer this shutdown continues, the worse the effects will be. More families will be hurt, more businesses will be harmed. So once again, I urge House Republicans to reopen the government, restart the services Americans depend on.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Last time we had a shutdown in 1995, our GDP was around 3.5%. It dipped a little bit, just under 3% while the shutdown occurred, and then afterwards we zoomed to 7% GDP. So a little bit of an oversell there. We'll see how this thing comes out. But, you know, the president was so arrogant in the Rose Garden today. I mean, really arrogant. And then he more or less he tries to pin on these Republicans who have constituents that they like to see people suffer. What is this?
I want Republicans in Congress to know these are the Americans you'd hurt if you were allowed to dismantle this law. Americans like Amanda and Nancy and Trinace, who now finally have the opportunity for basic security and peace of mind of health care just like everybody else, including members of Congress. The notion that you'd make a condition for reopening the government that I make sure these folks don't have health care, that doesn't make any sense.
That is just a complete, it's not even a spin. It's just a complete misalignment of how this whole argument began. The Republicans are not trying to keep those three people from obtaining health insurance. They've got different thoughts about the way this thing ought to be funded, and this thing called the deficit has a big bearing on their objective. At the same time, so the president should stop doing that. At the same time, he also ought to stop treating them like they're subhuman. Crazies, wackos, extremists, anarchists, as we've seen. We've been covering this each and every night here. You know what? Look, it's true. The Democrats call the Republicans bluff. The Republicans are going to have to fold their tent here and fight for another day, maybe even pass the debt ceiling on October 17th. It's called the 2014 elections. But they're less likely to do so if you keep treating them like animals, Mr. President, FYI. All right, meanwhile, the healthcare exchanges are open and running the exchanges so that you can buy insurance. You don't really have anything effective until January 1st, but you know, the headlines are up and the marketplaces are open, and you can follow all of this. Let me just show you a couple of quick graphics. I'll blow through this really quickly so you understand some of the alleged benefits here. So a 26-year-old making $26,000 a year right now would pay, if you're a female, about $172 a month for your health insurance, a basic plan, and about $120 a month if you're a woman at 26. On the exchange with HealthSourceRhodeIsland.com, subsidized by the federal government, $91 a month. That's one example. And then there's another example here for a 55-year-old who'd be at $328 or $329, depending on male or female, through the exchange, $135 a month. Now listen, those are individual cases. As the family thing gets in, and as you need, you know, higher coverage and lower deductible, it gets a little wacky. So shop HealthSourceRI.com at your leisure and at your convenience, and with some scrutiny. Okay, this is the website right there. Nice job there, Laura. So we'll pay more attention to this as it goes. But the funny thing about these exchanges, you know, Rhode Island's one of 16 states that is leading with its own self-made exchange. Even our computers blew up today, which tells me that there is a lot of interest and people have a lot of questions. Reportedly, 4 out of 5 Rhode Islanders don't even know what this is all about. So they're going to spend $800,000 plus on places like here, TV, radio, to inform you. And of course, all the bosses love that. What in heaven's name, really, fellas, locally, the state Republican Party, really, come this Sunday, they've got a no-charge fundraiser at the South County Rod and Gun Club in West Greenwich, and they're running a raffle. Raffle tickets here, get your raffle tickets here, win an AR-15 here. What? Yeah, amongst the prizes, a variety of guns. You've seen guns before. I'm sure there's a couple of guns in that lot that would be worthwhile of the prize. An AR-15. You know, sometimes you just have to have a little less than a tin ear. An AR-15, fellas, the same kind of weapon that was used in Newtown. Why don't you know what? Why don't you have a raffle next week? Why don't we have some adult toys? You know, you know what I mean? Well, they're legal. I know what the argument is. Well, Dan, they're legal. It's legal. It's all right. Yeah, too. So let's throw caution to the wind. Let's run a burlesque show, and you know, some nighties and some toys for you know, what? I mean, it's just dumb. Which is why I say they should have shut the formal Republican Party down here a year ago to give it a break, because I don't see any real brain power coming out of it. Our guest coming up, Mayor Fung, may question that, but I wonder what he thinks about that. And lastly, I can't imagine helping my kid at $55,000 or $60,000 a year in tuition to find out that Brown runs an entire series of group activities in the nude for a week. Speaking of burlesque, or less, listen, Brown's a funny place. We get a lot of goodness from Brown, but it's also very strange. What are they smoking over there? And the administration thinks it's fine, and I don't know. Am I getting too old, or am I too much of a prude? You guys think it's fine? Jess, you think this is cool? I get nothing from her, nothing. I get nothing more than she's hiding behind the keyboard. I couldn't write the check. I can't imagine. My kid calls me and says, "What are you doing this week?" I said, "Brown, well, Dad, sit down." When we come back, the mayor of Cranston. Ugh, I'm speechless. Stay with us. Could you imagine spending tuition dollars sending a kid to Brown and they're naked for a week up there? Take a stand on that, will you please?
It's Brown. What do you expect from Brown?
Alan Fung, the mayor of Cranston. Oh my goodness. While we're here, there's all sorts of things I want to talk to you about at home, but what's your take on today's activity in Washington and the whole GOP stand in the Democratic standoff? And
Yeah,
all
I
of it?
certainly don't support, a shutdown of government, because who knows how long this is going to last. Government is supposed to be there to provide stability, not only for its residents, but for businesses. And that's one of the things we've been trying to do in Cranston, and I don't think it's healthy to have a shutdown, because it creates a lot of uncertainty, not only for the workers, but just in general for the people of our country.
So what does that make you? Another flavor of Republican here, as the Republicans from the different part of the country with constituents who are really, really adamant about this Obamacare thing being problematic, and some of the other things that they're trying to fight for. I mean, what were they supposed to do other than to take a shot at this?
Well, but here's the other thing. It's the law, though, Dan. And there's certain ways that you can object to the law however you want to do it. But to stop government and stop it from functioning is, in my opinion, wrong. I don't support Obamacare when it was enacted.
What's the leverage then? What's the leverage?
Look, right now,
other than the elections that come in 2014 and 2016,
that's
what's the
good.
leverage?
That is the American democratic process, whether you like it or not, Dan. And it's the law of the land. The fight should have been at that earlier level about the passage, not passage, whatever they want to do. But to shut down government?
Yeah, I think it's got a lot to do also with the president's complete arrogance in the way he treats the Republican Party as extremists. And Sheldon Whitehouse walks around making a habit of calling them everything other than just loyal opposition. I mean, whatever happened to that kind of dignity in the debates?
I agree with you. There has to be a lot more stability in that dialogue going back and forth, because it shouldn't just be creating that hysteria about the Republican Party or even the Democratic Party. It's not about the parties. It's not about the individuals. It really should be about government coming together, getting things done for the best interests of all Americans.
So do you think they ought to fold their tent, the Republicans, put up a clean resolution and be done with it?
I think they have to, put up a clean resolution to get government funded. But if they're going to battle on the Obamacare or the health care, issues in general, they got to do it through the legislative process, not by shutting down government, because that's what people are looking for: leadership from government, making sure that we're there for when there's a time of need. And that's what we've been doing in Cranston. And I think that's what has to have happen at the national level too, a civility in that dialogue.
All right, let's come home to Cranston for a second. What's up with the rats?
We've been having rat issues for a while
It's
now.
my skin crawl.
And we're actually taking a lot of proactive measures there, Dan. First of all, the residents that call, what we've been doing is effectively going out there to try to combat bait where we can, but it just takes more than just baiting one house. That's part of the difficult problems. We try to hit targeted neighborhoods, go in there where there are issues, and try to hit several households so that you eradicate the problem within that area. The other part that we're going to do on a long-range aspect is we're trying to move towards the automated bins, the bigger bins, because you have to cut up that food source to those rats, because that's what's going on right now. They're looking for food. We're out there also trying to cite people who aren't doing the right things with their garbage, because that's a big part of the problem. So it's a comprehensive thing. We're trying to address it in both the short term and the long term.
When you decided you wanted to get into public service, did you ever think you were trying to be managing rats?
And chickens, remember.
Oh, that's right, chickens too. Well, you got it all going on. And then, of course, you had floods, and the Dean Estates was another example. I think not necessarily of just Mother Nature. I think you were pretty candid with me on the radio a couple of weeks ago when you said, there had to be some kind of other than Mother Nature's solution here. And it seems like you've highlighted which drains were backing up. Give me the short answer on how this thing is going to reconcile itself and how stuff like this is never going to happen again on a one-day rain or a 1 hour rain.
Right, it was a couple-hour rain, that microburst that happened. It's those drains. We've been working with the state as well as the property owner for those apartments, because they had drains behind them too. And we're just going to have to continue working with them to make sure the drains flow properly. They're going to have to take a look at the engineering of that entire area, because it was just an odd situation.
State drains.
State drains. Oaklawn Avenue, Route 5 is a state road, and the drains that were on their property were the property owners.
Who manages the state drains?
The state does.
And are they uncle on this? Like, yeah, our problem?
Well, I don't know. We're working with them. I know my public works director is working with the state on that on those drains. And
Do they acknowledge that it's their issue?
oh yeah, they know it's their issue because it's not a city,
Have they provided a solution yet that you're working
No,
toward?
not yet. Not yet. We're working with them, so that's the best that I can give you as an update.
When do you stand on your head and start screaming at them? When does that happen?
We've been doing that, but the most important part right now is working with that property owner because he's going to have a lot of work with that first floor was entirely
Yeah, that
devastated.
should never happen. All right.
No,
well,
it shouldn't have happened.
No, we'll keep up with that. All right, when we come back, what's his party doing? Raffling off AR-15s and this other thing, this thing called the governor's race he's thinking about. Of course, I'm going to ask him about that. Stay with us. With a good mayor of Cranston, Alan Fung, a popular guy there. How popular he'll be statewide, we're not sure. My guess is he's going to go. I'm not going to do the typical, when are you going to announce it? I kept thinking about it, but I do have some questions about that. First of all, your party, they're running a fundraiser and they're raffling off an AR-15.
Yeah, no,
Is there a missing chromosome there, or what's going on?
And this is the thing. I'm also a Second Amendment guy, but I'm also a former criminal prosecutor too, and I've got strong reservations about raffling off a semi-automatic. It's not something I would personally do or encourage anyone to do. So.
Have you called the chairman, Mr.
No,
Smiley, to
I
say,
haven't called the chairman.
fellas, I could be your principal candidate. Hello?
No, I have not called him. I'm not involved in, the fundraiser itself. Their party's been the one pushing it, so it's just one of these things where it is what it is, Dan, and like I said, it's not something I would ever personally do to raise campaign funds or anything in that respect.
Well, you're in a funky position because when the story came out about your exploratory committee, I was busting your tail here pretty good over this. So you assemble a team for a possible run for governor, and in there you were saying that you were looking for advice from people as to whether or not you were up to it. I'm paraphrasing. Would you stop with that? Come on. You either want to run for governor or you don't.
Yeah.
You're either going to run or you won't. And anything that you assemble 40 or 50 people together for is not going to be a determining fact. They are not going to be the litmus test as to whether they bless your acumen. If you think you're good enough to run for governor, you'll run for governor.
Yeah, but Dan, remember the exploratory committee, there's a lot of issues out there that are happening statewide. And that's why I make sure I assemble a team both inside the GOP and outside the GOP.
Well, it seemed to me that you really got,
issues.
what you did was, what you're trying to do, I don't know how much you've assembled, but you certainly are name dropping every establishment name in the Republican Party right now. That's a strategy. I'm not so sure it's a winning strategy. It may be a primary winning strategy. I don't know. But this whole notion that everyone goes through these machinations of, I'm getting advice and counsel. You're either running or you're not. Why don't you please just give me that you're not waiting for some white smoke or black smoke from 50 guys or gals to tell you whether they think you're good enough to be the governor.
It's not that at all, Dan.
But that's how you portrayed it.
No, not really. Because when you take a look at that statement, like I said, there are a lot of issues. Number one issues I've been working on in Cranston are the jobs. But you're also talking about education, infrastructure, healthcare. We're talking about some of the issues that are impacting us today.
Well, I get
These
that
are
you
the
need
things
advice
you
to
need
build
people.
platforms.
Absolutely.
Exactly. But the very decision as to
Yep.
whether you're going to run will be made by
Exactly. Absolutely.
You're not
Absolutely.
waiting to see if 12 smart guys think you're smart enough to run, which is the way the story was portrayed.
No, what it is
Tell
making
everybody,
sure
you want to run for governor, don't you? You want to.
I'm taking that serious look,
Well,
just like
the
I've
serious
said,
look, yeah.
before, Dan.
Yeah, come on, please. I mean, well, anyway, on that,
Yeah.
the landscape here
Yep.
is going to be interesting. Since Lane Chafee got out, the whole thing is changed completely. Now,
Absolutely.
the thinking here is that Angel Deveris and Gina Raimondo are going to beat the tar out of each other in a primary. I'm not exactly sure that's how it's going to turn out. More on that as shows come over the next couple of days. Right now you stand as the lone Republican potentially in this race, but Ken Block seems to be looming. What would a Ken Block primary look like with you?
Oh, and that's one of the things that, this team of people that are in exploratories is helping me guide through, because whether Ken jumps in the race or not, I'm going to be prepared. And I've said this before on your show, one person's decision, whether it's Ken or Angel or Gina, who I'm very good friends, or even Gina, isn't going to influence what I'm looking to do, and that's help the people of the state of Rhode Island. I've been doing that as mayor, getting Cranston back to stability, and that's what I would like to do for the state of Rhode Island if, you know, I decide to jump in that governor's
Can you
race.
guarantee that all the people that were listed on your exploratory, you know, should I run committee, that they're all actually with you, or did you just drop a few names in there without actually getting their consent?
I called all the individuals that are on that. I personally called all the individuals.
Did you guarantee that they were with you in a potential run for governor, that they would support you?
I asked them for their support, and I asked them to be listed on that exploratory.
So everybody on there you touch base with?
Everyone I personally touch base with, myself.
So when we get into the messy part of the season, someone says, I never said I was with them, you'll say,
look, they agreed to be on my exploratory. I called them. So I called each and every individual that was on that, whether it's on the phone, in person, and I asked them for their, their willingness to serve on that exploratory committee, and each of them indicated yes. I'm not going to put someone on there if, I hadn't asked them.
You really, really want to be governor?
I'm taking a serious look at it, Dan.
Yeah. He wants to be governor. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. You either want to be governor or you don't want to be governor.
And I'm taking a serious look at it. I wouldn't be if I didn't want to.
All right, your state of mind when we come back. Alan Fung, he really wants to be governor. Stay with us. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Mayor Fung. Wide-ranging from rats to running for governor. There's always usually a few rats in that process too. Oh my gosh, can't take me anywhere. Let's go to your state of mind. Tonight we have a voicemail from, is it Sherry? I think it's Sherry or Cherry left me a message. Listen to this.
I wish that you would be, instead of a half hour, I get disappointed when I say, oh shoot, it's already 8 o'clock. So just wondering if you could be there instead of a half hour, if you can make it an hour.
Oh, well, Sherry, that's awful nice of you. Let me give you a hint. If you miss it at 7:30, we replay at 11:30. You can go online at foxprovidence.com, or you can get one of those old-fashioned things called the DVR or TiVo. Your state of mind, that's how you get in touch with me. See you tomorrow night at 7:30.